copper-colored Nagas, but they took that title. Khan means priest, Khan means priest, Khan means priest. They took that title and now apply it to their descendants. They took that title and apply it to their successors. And your kingdoms, dukedoms, counties, principalities, dominions, possessions, and put it to their own use and profit. Yeah, I'm talking these islands and lands, man. Harbors and seas, man. Successors, descendants.
The United States. It's important to understand that it was not originally known as the United States in 1774. That is what has become a common appellative.
I'm sorry, man. 1774. How close is that to the Chickamauga War? 1776. How close is 1774 to the so-called American Revolutionary War? And you don't think it has nothing to do with the Moor? Ish. They're still using the Moorish Trust instead of the United States Corporation in 1774. So this has everything to do with them using so-called whites as a straw man. How could it not have nothing to do with them if they still were in power with the Moorish Trust in 1774? This is the switcheroo. Now we'll be United States of America. And we'll have Caucasians act like they're in power. But we'll hide behind them. Call us the secret ones. The faceless ones. Call us the boule. I'm just saying, it's a wrap. You can't have the Khan. You can't have the Khan. Nah, you're not the real Amari Khan. From way back in 775, American Empire of Kalaluz. All this means promised land. Moors are from Mars.
But if you do any research and you look at the Annales Continents, the Annales Continents is the Continental Records, which prior to that was known as the Annales Imperium, which was the Imperial Records. And now in the Imperial Records, you have what is known as the Consociuimos Regnum. The Consociuimos Regnum was a consolidation or a convocation of 13 royal families. Those royal families were Moorish families that basically consolidated their power for a number of reasons, of which I'll go into.
13 families consolidated their power for reasons maybe he'll go into, but maybe it's because they consulted together with one consent against the treasure ones, made a covenant, and became, the coalition of today, man. 13 Moorish families. Yeah, add them up. Got 'em. You know how they say, like, oh, there's only like 13 families behind everything. Right. Got 'em. Do you see clearly? None of them are Caucasian, Jack. None of them are Caucasian. What's behind the veil is the same hijacks that's been at war with you from biblical times. And by the time you wake up and you see clearly, that's when they want to start World War III, right? Now they want to go crazy. Now they want to blow go crazy. But you see clearly, man. You keep the code because it's game over for the hijack.
Informing this corporate family trust, again, as I said, that we call the United States Corporation. And they did this under what was known as the Capitis Societas, known to you as the Articles of Association. And 3 years later, the Capitis Civitatis, known as the Articles of Confederation. However, as you can see from the names that I'm giving or the terminology that's being used is that these documents were not originally in English. Many of them were in the ancient Moorish Latin language. Um, Again, as I said, if you do any extensive research, if you look in, there are particular sections in the Library of Congress, as well as the Department of State Library, of which only very few people have access to, that will give you more information on the early years of the forming of the United States Corporation. At any rate, as I said, it was essentially or loosely termed Consociumos Regnum, which basically was an act. It was not a name per se that was used for the United States, because when you say Consociumos Regnum, Consociumos basically means that we have united, meaning that we have done something, or a group of us have done something, meaning we nobles or we membrana of this particular thing that we have formed, or these United Kingdoms. And so Consociumos Regnum was the consolidation or convocation of these 13 kingdoms. But what has happened with the whole United States aspect is that they've been using an indicative verbal action in the noun sense, or nonsense, if you will, meaning that when they say the United States, obviously they're using a definite article, the, and so therefore using it in the noun sense. But when you say anything, even according to the rules of English, and you add an ed, like I walked to the store, obviously that indicates that you've done something as in a verbal action, and therefore cannot be used as a name or again in the noun sense. So these particular 13 kingdoms, later misnamed colonies and states, had rulers known as Bais, Baigs, or Beglabegs. And these Bey titles were titles that were also used by the first ruler of China, known as Qinbai, and of course also used in the Moorish Ottoman Empire, more commonly known as the Ottoman Empire, the Bai or Bey title. But anyway, these Beys or Bey rulers on the continent in the 1760s and 70s were kings, princes, and governors owing allegiance to the Sultan at that time, Sayyid ibn Abdullah Muhammad XVII, who ruled between 1757 and 1790 from Marrakesh. Now, Marrakesh at that time was Philadelphus or Philadelphia, which was both.
So he's saying the Sultans were ruling from Philly. All right, I just need you to keep your mind bone on the big picture here. He's talking about the Sultan up into 1790. 1790, Ishmael's migrating. It's still an ice age. It's still an ice age. 16th century to 19th centuries. Coldest period ever in America. Look it up. Caused by a decrease of human population. European contact. Holy Roman Emperor Charles. What do you think he has to do with the bays and nails and all that? I think it's the same damn Confederacy. In the United States, he's really saying that's really their thing, like in their language, for the unifying unitedness. But that's the same consulting together with one consent. Against who? You. You, man. Yeah, all this happened recently. See, the scriptures say we're going to wake up and start weeping, man, when we realize who's doing this to us and why, like, that we are who we are, where we're at. He's saying the Sultans in Philly. Come on, man. It's all happening here. This is not a re-layout, right? This is their perspective of America. You know, this is their perspective. This is our perspective. You're in India Superior. This is the land of Prester John. He's talking about owning homage to the Sultan, man. We rocking with the priest king. We rocking with King David. He ain't talking King David. They're not talking King David. They gotta be real careful speaking on this frequency. He's over there putting, you know, he got 72 kings paying tribute, like, you know what I mean? They're tired of paying tribute to the Prester. Genghis Khan was tired of paying tribute to the Prester. So Genghis Khan went to war against the Prester in 1202. And this is why it's also listed as one of the causes is Genghis Khan. Who did he go to war with? Prester John. The Mongol means great, just like Moor means great. The Mongol means the great empire. He's not the real Khan. He's not the real Wang Khan. Wang is the king. The Khan is the priest. He's not the real priest. We only got one shepherd, man. Khan Dawu. Khan Dawi. So, okay. They rocking with the Sultan. Philadelphia is in America. I'll get that back. And Moors are from Mars.
Part of Mauritania or Mauritania, and Mauritania was actually, and of course, also used in the Moorish Ottoman Empire, more commonly known as the Ottoman Empire, the Bai or Bey title. But anyway, these beys or bey rulers on the continent in the 1760s and 70s were kings, princes, and governors owing allegiance to the Sultan at that time, Sayyid ibn Abdullah Muhammad XVII, who ruled between 1757 and 1790 from Marrakesh. Now, Marrakesh at that time was Philadelphus or Philadelphia, which was both, this was a part of Mauritania or Mauritania. And Mauritania was actually in North and South Dakota, here in North America. And of course,
this is their perspective, Ham and Kush, right? So the entire Mauritania, North and South Dakota?
Marrakesh, as I said, was Philadelphia, and Marrakesh, which later became known as Morocco, means sons of Kush. And so
the sons of Kush is Philadelphia. All right. And again, Ham and Kush. So they're the sons of Kush. Ham and Kush, right? Okay. So Kush is Ham's son, and they're sons of Kush. But there is no Shem. Hijack City, they have made sure they cut us off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more remembered. What Shem? Who Shem? What Shem? Even though Moab is technically Shem, right? Technically from Abraham's nephew, Lot, right? But the children of Lot were not happy with their lot. They wanted a lot. They wanted more. So they made a covenant against you. Because they hate HaWah. They hate you. Have lifted up the head. I can't make this stuff up. Moors are from Mars.
This royal family, or convocation of royal families, rather, the 13 royal families, some of the names, if you read in the imperial records or the continental records, as opposed to the congressional records, some of the names were Agenor, Agathocles, Ayak, Barca, which, by the way, Barca is another name or an ancient name for Chicago. And after Barca, it became known as Libya or Ludim. And the people, the Moorish people, were known as Lahabim at that time. But anyway, as I said, one of the names, Ayak, the English equivalent, believe it or not, would be Ajax. So what they've done is the Albion has reduced many of these royal names and titles to toilet cleansers and other derogatory things, um, which I find to be very interesting. Now, also the name Agathokles, which, as I said, was one of the names of the royal families, is where we get the Aga title for governor, which is, of course, also used in the Turkish language as well. But anyway, as I said, many of these legal documents were not in the lingua anglice, or the English language, until actually a century later. So, again, you're looking at the time of the federal Christian European influence under bankruptcy reconstruction between 1861 and 1878, which was one of the reasons, apart from many reasons, of the Civil War, because it was to give them enough time to actually change or alter many of the salient records, to, as I said, to translate them, to omit things by, again, omission or commission. And so it gave them enough time to pray and alter these records, and to ultimately give you the popularized versions that you read today in your miseducation system. And so the original, of course, is always under lock and key, and you get the neutered version or neutered translation. But back to 1774, when the Corporate Family Trust was organized or created, one of the main reasons for the convocation or consolidation was due to the fact that the Moorish sway in the Americas was on the fast track of decline because of the 300 years continental wars between the Franciscan Dutch and the Mozarabs. The Mozarabs.
Mozarabs. Got 'em. Nah, you. He wants to label somebody else Cretans. You know what I mean? According to the Jewish Encyclopedia, the most Arabs were everybody who weren't Arab propers but were pretending to be Arabs. You know, taking the women, intermarrying. That's how they got the land. Oh, your grandmother's land. You know, oh, this is her grandson. Nah, she was forced into having that baby. She wasn't giving the land away to that boy so they can hijack the land. They took the women. They took the wives. They took the daughters. They took Prester John's daughter. Genghis Khan married Prester John's daughters, or whatever the case is. So that's how they became genuine in their eyes, but they were still pretending. So he just mentioned the mustard rag. Got him. Moors are from Mars.
Is basically another term, a name for Cretan or Christian Spaniards. Now, during this time, during the 300 years continental wars, you had many of the older generations of Moors who were dying off. Many were prisoners of war. The newer generations were being born in war camps, and were now being nationally lobotomized via Cretan reclassification and socio-behavioral modification.
Sound like MK Ultra, man, but he said 300-year continental war. Just again, just count it down, man. I mean, you know what I mean? So he's leading up to Civil War. And I don't know if he said it yet, but, you know, at some point he says, like, we had power or we were in power up until around the Civil War. But we know it was still more and more after that. It just continued with more Indian and Cherokee war. You know what I mean? Then they went to the Philippines, more Nagas. Look up the original Philippine, and you're going to get more so-called black people, man. All right, so, but this wasn't white or black, man. This is the Hebrews, whether they were on these islands, or those islands. Because remember, they came to get the islands and the lands, the harbors and the seas, the kingdoms, dukedoms, counties, principalities, everything. 1452, then 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. 1492, 8 years later, Holy Roman Emperor Charles is still rocking out, man. So I think there's a deep semblance between Prince Uriel Bay and his people and old Charlesy boy here, man. I think this is kinfolk, man. I think what he's talking about 300-year continental war, want to bring the Dutch in, everybody, all these are Swarthy Nagas. This is a Hebrew war against Moab and them, man. Against Edom and them, man. Against the children of Lot, against Ishmael who's migrating. Straight up. 300-year continental war against Charles E. Boy. 1500. That led into, you know what I'm saying, this revolutionary yada yada. As well as the so-called Civil War was just in the midst of everything else. It was in the midst of everything else. It wasn't separate than the Indian Wars and Cherokee Wars. It was in the midst of everything else. Colorado, Navajo, Utah, everything is being attacked by these hijacks. And they look just like us because it's still Shem. It's still it's still Shemites, man. It's still Moab in it. It's still Ham in it. We would see each other today and say, man, that's family, man. Black man, black man. That's family, man. Nah, man. Charles didn't see it like that. Haughty-eyed Charles don't see it that way. You don't got the dragonfly perspective. 300-year continental war. Man, you go backwards from 1776 minus 300, you're in 1476. I just showed you the 1452 Papal Bulldog to take down all y'all. And that's right in the midst with Charles. He's still rocking out. Do you see clearly? After 300 years already going against Moab and them as Hebrews in the Promised Land, American Empire collapsed. Solomon the builder, the Barbar was under attack. The Barbar was at war. The Swan was at war. The Swan Knights were under attack. They want to call us barbarian foreigners now, right? Do you see clearly? We the Saracens. They under attack. The Saracens. Israel. Lost tribes, found tribes. Because we keep the code, we see clearly. Everything was Swarthy, right? Benjamin Franklin. All of Africa. All of Asia, America, holy. All of Europe and Spaniards and Italians and French, including these Dutch. All the Russians and the Russians are the Rus, right? Russians are Swarthy. That means Israel is Swarthy. Copper, color, race is found.